and welcome back to Fictional Latitude. I'm Deborah, I hope you're well. Today I'm going to talk about just briefly, why I love reading Agatha Christie, or rereading Agatha Christie. And just a quick look at some of the top books, some of the books in particular that I think show some of the points that I'm going to make. This is the second time, my second attempt at making this video, and I'd had 30 minutes yesterday of complete incoherent waffling, even worse than this intro. And the reason for that is because one of my gorgeous boys is in dog hospital at the moment. So Nacho has leishmaniasis, or contracted leishmaniasis, a couple of years ago, and that's left him with kidney damage, very bad kidney damage. Anyway, he's obviously contracted some sort of virus recently, and he was not a well puppy. So I took him in, and they kept him in, and so yesterday I was just all panicky and not focused. I'm still not particularly focused, but I went in and saw him this morning, and he was not full of beans, obviously, but he was more of himself, and so I'm feeling a little bit more relaxed. So I'm going to try again. So, Agatha Christie. Why do I like reading Agatha Christie, and when did I start reading her? Agatha Christie, I probably first read one of her books when I was about 12. At the time, there would have been the adaptations on television with, or maybe I was a bit older, I don't know. Anyway, with Joan Hickson as Miss Marple. And I loved those. And so I was going to read the books in order to see whether they were as good as the TV programmes. And of course they were, and maybe even a little bit better. And she was kind of a step up from authors like Enid Blyton. Now the good thing with Agatha Christie is that you've got that variation of characters, and so you've got Poirot mysteries, you've got Miss Marple mysteries, you've got Tommy and Tuppence mysteries, etc., and then you've got the ones where there's no sort of ongoing persona. A bit like Enid Blyton, so you had the Famous Five, the Secret Seven, the Mysteries of, I always remember the Mysteries of Spiggy Hole, I don't know why, and the Magic Faraway Tree, etc., etc. So that's one reason why I found it very easy to go from sort of like the preteen reading of Enid Blyton straight into an Agatha Christie. And at the time, as adolescence kicked in and my hormones went wild, so did my interest in all things crime focused. So I went into a massive true crime spree. No, not a spree, I didn't commit any crimes, but reading spree, and also horror at the time as well. So Stephen King and James Herbert were right up there. But Agatha Christie has persisted, whereas Stephen King and James Herbert have not. So let us think about plots. The plots are very intricate. There are often good twists that you don't see coming. I mean, particularly if you think about Murder on the Orient Express. No? Yes. And also a lot of red herrings, misdirections, but the clues are there. So one of the things, and she did actually put this in one of her books, of course I can't remember which one, about the fact that people accuse the authors of not giving you all of the information so that you can work it out for yourself. But she does, but you just have to sift through all of the information that's there to figure out what is the most appropriate and most likely to have happened. And then you can figure it out most of the time. And then there's the whole psychology of it. So if you think, she looks at the human psyche and it's very on point. So if you think about Death on the Nile, which is one of my favourites, I'm going to say Murder on the Orient Express is the favourite, followed by Death on the Nile. And if you think about young love and how there's always been that one special person, well, most of the time, whom you would do the most drastic things for. Okay, maybe not murder. Multiple murders. But you would do murder for, that you care for so much. Like Poirot says in here, she cares too much, that little thing. And you would. And there is usually that one love where you would do anything and it hurts. The love hurts so much that you lose all sense of perspective. And I think that's very much at the heart of this one. And that's why it is believable to a certain extent, obviously. And then when you get to ones like Miss Marple, then you have her taking her village anecdotes and making and applying them to the bigger world. So whether that's, oh God, was it Tommy or Freddie who put the frog in the teacher's drawer and it jumped out or whatever? Anyway, so those sorts of things. And she then relates it to somebody as an adult doing something in order to shock somebody because they were upset by something. So it works the same way. So there's always that psychology, there's always those little grey cells in there that are being used, which again adds that sense of realism to what could be otherwise a very unrealistic set of circumstances. So the body in the library, which is probably, along with the murder at the vicarage, my favourite Marple ones, she also puts humour in there. Now, Miss Marple is very often at the periphery of the books that she's in, where she is the detective that's trying to solve it. Some of them, you don't see her until the very end. You're like, is she there? Is she even in this book? Yes, she is. But she just has these little cutting lines. And I think it is in The Body in the Library, where Mrs. Bantry says, oh, her mind has plumbed the depths of human iniquity. And you think, really? What, this little grey-haired old lady? Oh, yeah. So I'm just going to read a quote from The Body in the Library for the humour aspect. So they found the body and they're trying to talk, Bantry and Marple are talking about who it could be. And Mrs. Bantry says, people say that it doesn't matter what you wear in the country. I never heard such nonsense. It's just in the country that everyone notices. She paused and added wistfully, he was an adorable baby in his bath. There was a lovely picture of the Cheviot murderer as a baby in the bath in the paper last Sunday, said Miss Marple. She just cut straight in there. Brilliant. Was it Basil Blake? And then, yes, as I say, you have lots of different points of views. And also, one of the things about Agatha Christie, so even when you have a Poirot book, like The Mysterious Affair at Styles, it's not narrated by Poirot. The same with Miss Marple. It's not narrated by her. It's either an anonymous narrator, or it will be Hastings or Colonel Race or whomsoever. But she also... So you've got... And again, it's like, as I said earlier, it's like Enid Blyton, in that you've got the famous five, the Secret Seven. Here you've got Poirot, Marple, Tommy and Tuppence, the Anne Bedingfield from The Man in the Brown Suit, and then there were none. When I'm not going to say who was in it because... But yeah, I love this, and I would like to see this at the theatre, because I know it's travelling around the UK, or was, recently. Again, digress. So anyway, back to this. She also, her characterisation is very good, because she, not only does she get the psychology right, but also the descriptions of the people fits with their actions. So when we look at some of the screen adaptations of Poirot, for example, now I particularly like David Suchet's one because I think it's the closest, it's still not exactly as this, but I think it's the closest that we've had to the description that she gives of Poirot in this first book, The Mysterious Affair at Styles. So Kenneth Branagh is just not going to cut it for me. I loved Peter Ustinov because I liked the humour, but he's still not Poirot in the thing, in the physicality of him. And the physicality of Poirot reflects in his personality. So if we just read I've got to do this because I've got the screen glasses on, not the reading glasses. Anyway, Poirot was an extraordinary looking little man. He was hardly more than 5 feet 4 inches, but carried himself with great dignity. His head was exactly the shape of an egg, and he always perched it a little on one side. His moustache was very stiff and military. The neatness of his attire was almost incredible. I believe a speck of dust would have caused him more pain than a bullet wound. Yet this quaint, dandified little man, who, I was sorry to see, now limped badly, had been in his time one of the most celebrated members of the Belgian police. As a detective, his flair had been extraordinary, and he had achieved triumphs by unravelling some of the most baffling cases of the day. And there we have it. He's precise, he's ordered, he's particular. The brain in that little egg-shaped head is what's going to take us where we want to go. Another thing that I love about the Agatha Christies is that you have a lot of real life from the times that she was writing actually reflected in the books. So, for example, Murder in Mesopotamia, An Appointment with Death, they are archaeologically based out in Mesopotamia, etc. Death on the Nile, same thing, you've still got some archaeology in there. And she's used her own personal experiences of when she was married to Max, who's an archaeologist, and put them into those books. So you know that when she's talking about, them digging under here or pulling out a such and such artefact from the ground, that she probably will have witnessed that, and she may well have been one of the people with the brush cleaning an artefact and cataloguing them and stuff. And one book, okay, this isn't one of her fictional books, but biographical books, is Come Tell Me How You Live, which is based around when she was out with Max and in the 1930s doing the archaeology. And it's a really great insight into her life at the time. She did still have her little desk with her typewriter to write away. But it is a very, very interesting book. Now, in order to keep me on track, I have got notes. Let me just check I'm not missing anything. No, I'm good. So, pace is the other thing that's absolutely crucial to me for reading, and that's why I love Agatha Christie as well, because they're quick. On a rainy afternoon, like we have today, it's grey out there. I mean, I've actually managed to get some light today, but on grey days, there is nothing better than curling up with an Agatha Christie book, a glass of wine, and whooshing your way through in 4 hours or whatever, and just being completely absorbed. And I just find them incredible. They're really, really good books for an afternoon, or reading on the train or on the plane or on a bus or whatever. Absolutely brilliant. Now, another book that I would recommend, just before I go into criticisms of her, another book that I would recommend are the Complete Secret notebooks. She left 73, was it? Yeah, 73 private notebooks when she died. They found them. And they give insights into how she came up with the ideas. Could this person do it? Could they not do it? And her, quite frankly, illegible handwriting. with her notes. This is such a good book, and I had this on at Bertram's Hotel when I was reading that. I'm thinking, how did she come up with that? Why did she do such and such? And it's great to understand her thought process from Miss Marple going to stay in a hotel and what actually occurred there. It's really fascinating. Now, criticisms of Agatha are that she is, how can I put this? How did I put it in my notes? Dated. But I would say it's not so much that she's dated, she's of her time. Yes, there is racism. Yes, she thinks of servants as definitely a lower class and gives them certain traits accordingly. Yes, she thinks of rich American fathers with their daughters in a particular way. I mean, you see that on the Mystery of the Blue Train, and well, mind you, Australian one, wasn't it, for the one? Anyway, but that father-daughter relationship. And they are dated, but, I would say to people who are critical of that, get over it, quite frankly. Yes, we did have to, they did have to rename And Then There Were None, because that was not acceptable to have on a bookshelf now with the original title, nor even the second title. The third one we can live with. But you know what? When people wrote these things, when people lived in these times, they were the prevailing ideas, that they were the prevailing, for people of her status in life, that's how they lived, that's how they thought of things, and we can't change the past. As they say in the Go-Between, the past is a different country, they do things differently there. And I don't think that we should go back and change things just because our sensibilities today are upset by it. And that's my rant over. The one criticism I have about Agatha Christie is naming convention. My God, drives me mad. How many Jane Greys, Catherine Greys, they all seem to be the same name. That's the one area in which she never seemed to really use her imagination. I don't know. Did she know lots of Greys? Did she know lots of people with, or did she only know people with a range of about 6 surnames? That's how it felt to me, but I can get over it, just like other people can get over those other things. And I'm just going to give you a quick, this is a little notebook that one of my friends got me. Is that focusing? Yeah. All responsibilities are only a nuisance. And look, Moomin is curled up with a bottle of wine and an Agatha Christie. Am I a Moomin? So I put in my notebook little scribbled notes about each of the books that Agatha Christie books that I've read. So I'm just going to give you a little glimpse into my thought process when I'm reading them as well. And then I'll leave you. So, And Then There Were None. The perfect twist. Strong sense of justification, though it's essentially, not going to say. The red herring is a big clue. 450 from Paddington. Had completely forgotten that in the book you don't know who Lucy Islesbarrow chooses as a partner. The clues are there, and they're there from very early on, but you really must pay attention. Miss Marple is at the periphery. Bertram's Hotel. Miss M is somewhat peripheral to the investigation, but what she sees is essential. ABC Murders. Oh God, I can't read my writing. Clever misdirections and errors that keep Poirot on his toes. The moving finger. There's a bit of a thing going on here. Miss Marple barely features in this Marple mystery, with seemingly little involvement until the unveil. Blah, blah, blah. Won't tell you what it is because it gives it away. Or I do say that something in there is a bit of a stretch, so The Secret Adversary, Tommy and Tuppence's first adventure, rollicking into war's romp with the duo coming together as partners in more than one way. Body in the Library. I just love Christie's psychological insights, etc., etc. So, I hope you've enjoyed that. There's a little insight into why I love Agatha Christie and why I have a whole bookcase dedicated to her work. As I say, absolutely love it. And because it's raining today, after I've gone and seen Nacho for a second visit in the hospital, I think I shall come back, pour myself a glass of red wine and settle down with an Agatha Christie. Which one will I read? I reread The Hollow the other day, so clearly I'm not going to do that one again. I am tempted by The Body in the Library. I think I might do that. Especially because it's quite a small volume, and by the time I get back from dog hospital at about 5 o'clock, that will be a perfect 5 till when I get hungry book to read. I do. That's my weekend. I hope your weekend goes well, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!